Welcome to Double Portion Inheritance with Maria Merola and Gary Wold, brought to you by DoublePortionInheritance.com. Since 1981, Maria heard the call of Yahuwah to become a watchman to the house of Yisrael and to those within the traditional Christian church. She was instructed to warn them against the false doctrines and pagan traditions of men. After 25 years of studying Scripture, the word of Yahuwah came to Maria again in 2007 as she was called out of the corporate world to become a full-time intercessor and prophetic teacher. The name of the ministry, Double Portion Inheritance, was given to her after she received the revelation of the two houses of Yisrael from Ezekiel 37:16. The mission of this ministry is to bring together the stick of Judah and the stick of Joseph for the return of the Messiah, Yahushua. And now, Maria Merola.
Comparing Donald Trump to King Charles III. I wrote this blog on December 15th, 2022. Now, many people are now claiming that King Charles III is the Antichrist. So let me first start by saying that in 1998, this guy named Tim Cohen wrote the book entitled Antichrist and a Cup of Tea. Tim Cohen's not even his real name. It's Tim Huckabee. I think he uses his mother's maiden name, Cohen. He's trying to capitalize on his mother's Jewish last name. But he claims that Prince Charles of Wales, who is now called King Charles III, is the Antichrist. Well, the only problem is that Scripture never places the definite article "the" in front of the word Antichrist. Because we are told that there would be many false messiahs. In Matthew 24:24, our Messiah said that there would be false messiahs and false prophets. In 1 John 2:18, it never uses the phrase "the" or "the Antichrist." It says that there are many antichrists. Even now, they are in the world. So there are many Antichrist leaders on the world stage right now vying for this position of the man of sin, the son of perdition, in 2 Thessalonians 2:3. Now, I believe that he is one of many anti-messiahs, but he's not necessarily I don't think he's the, quote, man of sin. One reason I say he's one of many is because him and his wife Camilla are famously known for being into New Age and mysticism and things like that. And he is pushing the whole climate change agenda. So yeah, he's on the world stage as one of many. But is he the little horn? No, I don't think that Charles fits the description of the little horn, and I'll explain why. So in Revelation 17:12, it says, "And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast." So is it possible that Charles could be part of the 10 horns on the beast? Yes, he could be one of the 10 kings that will rule for 1 hour with the beast. I don't necessarily think he is the son of perdition, that 2 Thessalonians chapter 2:3 is describing. Now, there are also rumors that King Charles III may abdicate his throne to his son William, since he is Diana's son, and her memory is beloved among the people of England. Charles, on the other hand, is not nearly as popular as his son, and many people still remember how he treated Diana and cheated on her with Camilla. So I don't know what's going to happen. Is Charles going to be coronated on May 6th? I don't know yet if he will. Something could happen that could intervene and prevent that from happening. I really don't know, but we'll see. Okay, so here's the book, Antichrist and a Cup of Tea, that Tim Cohen wrote. I've looked at this book a long time ago. I've even had conversations with this guy, Tim Cohen, on Facebook Messenger, and he's very adversarial towards me because he thinks that I'm wrong about Trump and he's right, and anybody who thinks differently than him is an adversary. So now I'm going to enumerate some of the key arguments that Tim Cohen makes to build his case for King Charles being the Antichrist. And I will counter those arguments, citing why I believe Trump is a much better fit for the little horn of Daniel's prophecy, as well as the beast of Revelation 13. Okay, so one of the things that Kim Cohen uses is that there's been a golden statue of Prince Charles that was made with wings, looking like Lucifer. And, he states that this statue makes Charles look like Halel, the fallen angel. This statue was presented to Charles when he visited South America in the 1990s, and he graciously accepted the statue. Now, here's my objection to this. While this may seem like the smoking gun that Charles is the Antichrist, there are many golden images of Donald Trump for sale online, some of them with wings on his back, just like the one of Charles. So here's a graphic I made. As you can see, this one is called King of Trumps. It's a winged statue of Trump looking like Lucifer with angelic wings. He's wearing a crown. You can buy it on Amazon. It's called King of Trumps. You can't even find the statue of Charles on Amazon or any place where you can buy it. Okay. They treated Trump as the Emperor Caesar at this parade in Tuscany, Italy. I'll break that down some other time. They made a golden statue of Trump at the CPAC event in 2021. There are Buddha statues right now made of Trump with his face on it. They're making them in China and they are selling them online. And as you saw with the previous podcast, there's a painting of Trump being crucified. Okay. So there's lots of people around the world worshiping Trump. Also, here's another graphic I made. This is a billboard of Trump in Georgia, and it's got a picture of Trump on it. It says, "Unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders." And so it's quoting a messianic prophecy about Yahushua, which is in Isaiah 9:6. And then underneath it says, "Joint heirs," Romans 8:17. And then this is another billboard of Trump in Missouri that says, "The word became flesh," John 1:14. And then it says, "Make the gospel great again." Yes, the gospel of Trump. Okay, this is sickening, but there are people in America likening Trump to our Messiah. And as I've already said, this idol is being sold on Amazon. It's an idol of Trump called King of Trumps. It has wings on it. 60 Minutes did a special called The Second Coming of Donald Trump. In Israel, they named this place called Trump Heights. It's right in front of a house of prayer that's open 24/7. There's a house of prayer that is called Trump Heights. Okay. And there's a book by Helgard Muller called President Donald J. Trump, Son of Man, the Christ. This book is sold on Amazon. There are t-shirts being sold with a picture of Trump that says Daddy. And then another guy's wearing a shirt that says Trump is my daddy. There are t-shirts like this. It's really unbelievable. In 2017, a Los Angeles artist forged a golden image of Kanye West, looking like a crucified Messiah, complete with a crown of thorns, and it's on display on Hollywood Boulevard. My point is, just because Charles has an image of himself with wings on it doesn't make him the Antichrist any more than Kanye West is the Antichrist. Of course, Kanye is an Antichrist. That doesn't mean he's the Antichrist. He's an anti-Mashiach. It's obvious by his rhetoric. He claims that he's a born-again Christian, but we know that's not true because of all the bad fruit that we've seen come from him. Revelation 13:15 tells us that the image of the beast will be made to speak, and life will be given to this image. I have suspected since the year 2001 that the image of the beast may be an alleged clone of Jesus, supposedly taken from the Shroud of Turin. And, there's actually a movie right now. It was in the theaters in January, but now it's available to watch online. It's called The Devil Conspiracy. And then the film is about the Shroud of Turin, which is in the possession of the Vatican. They claim it's the burial cloth that Messiah was wrapped in. I highly doubt it, because the scriptures tell us there was 2 burial cloths. One cloth was for his head. There was a napkin around his face, and the other cloth was for his body. And so these cloths were found on 2 opposite sides of the tomb. But the Shroud of Turin just features 1 cloth. Okay. Now, there's a website. I took a snapshot of it years ago. It was called Christians for the Cloning of Jesus. This other woman who's an author named Dr. Joy Pugh, she wrote a book postulating that Prince William is a clone of Jesus. She claims that the DNA, was taken from the shroud and mingled with Diana's egg. This is what she says. Who knows? I mean, anything's possible, but these are all just rumors. Now, I've never read her book, but I've examined some of the evidence that she uses to suggest that Prince William is an alleged clone of Jesus. And I don't know. I'm very skeptical about it. This is what she uses. She uses like an image of the shroud, and then she kind of morphs it with an image of William. Um, it's possible, but I'm not ruling it out, but I just don't know what to believe about that. Okay. This is the woman who wrote the book. Her name is Joy Pugh, Antichrist, the cloned image of Jesus Christ. Could be, there's lots of theories out there. Okay, other articles have surfaced on the internet since the year 2000 claiming the Catholic Church has already cloned Jesus. They claim on December 25th, 2000, and they say that he will be ready to serve as a high priest in the temple at the age of 30 in the year 2030. However, Prince William was born in 1982. Therefore, he's already 40 years old. However, Prince William, if he's the cloned image of the beast, does not mean that he's also the little horn. Okay, see, the little horn is a separate character than the image of the beast. Okay, so we'll have to see if that happens. Of course, these are rumors, but the mere mention of this idea would give the devil fuel for the imagination. I mean, if Satan wants to take the place of Elohim, what better way to do that than to become the creator by creating the creator? Makes sense how the devil wants to trade places with our Elohim by creating the creator. Okay, so I've got some links here. Now, Prince Charles of Wales, his name did add up to 666 in Hebrew, gematria. Prince Charles of Wales did add up to 666. And Tim Cohen cites that in Hebrew and English gematria that his name adds up to 666. However, now that he's King Charles III, his name no longer adds up to 666. Tim says that this is of no consequence because the name Prince Charles of Wales was used for identification purposes, and that his name as King Charles III does not have to have the numerical value of 666. So here's my objection to number 2. Revelation 13:16 says, and he, meaning the beast, causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Verse 17 says, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Revelation 13:18 says, here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, as seen in Revelation 13:16 through 18, the beast must possess this number, which corresponds to his name at the time that he causes the people of the world to receive his mark. In other words, the mark is the same value as his name. Okay. The beast also enforces buying and selling using this number. Okay. Which is the same numerical value of his name. This means that the beast's name must have the same numerical value as the mark that he issues to those who worship him. So if King Charles III does not bear the numerical value of 666 any longer, this would disqualify him from being the beast, because at the time that he enforces the number of his name, he has to be in that role of the beast, using his name as the number that he marks people with. On the other hand, President Donald Trump has a numerical value of 666, and both in Roman and also in computer ASCII code. In fact, the commandment to count the number of the beast, the Greek word for count in Revelation 13:18 is sephizo, which means to compute. Even though this was possible to compute the number of the beast in times past, we now have the technology to decipher the number and name of the beast in computer language. And Trump's title and his name does. Additionally, the V word adds up to 666. Let's go to this website that I like to use called Antichrist Calculator. The reason I use this website is because there are 10 different calculation methods here. Factored by 6, factored by 1, Pythagorean, Chaldean, English method 2, Greek, Roman. Here's computer ASCII code uppercase, ASCII lowercase. No other website has this. Most websites only use Greek or they only use English. Okay, so I'm going to type in President Donald Trump. Okay, and you're going to see it has a match for 666 right here. Okay. And so Prince Charles of Wales also adds up to 666. Okay. English method too. But now that he's King Charles, okay, King Charles the third, no match for 666. See that? Also, let's look at this V word. There you go, 666. Who's the father of the V? Who's the one that is taking all the credit? Who's the one that rolled out Operation Warp Speed? The same person who rolled out this thing is the same person who issues the number of his name, okay, with the poison in it, okay. Now we didn't see Charles doing that. Charles did not roll out Operation Warp Speed. Okay, so here's just a few other terms adding up to 666. President Donald Trump. Trump is Antichrist equals 666. Trump is Satan equals 666. Trump is devil 666. Trump is reptile 666. Trump is serpent 666. Trump is the he goat in Daniel's prophecy. I believe he is the he goat, which is describing Alexander the Great. I believe Trump is a type of Alexander the Great because Alexander the Great conquered 3 nations in the Middle East, and Trump did that with the Abraham Accords. Trump from hell equals 666. Trump is Nimrod. You know, Nimrod is an archetype of the first anti-Mashiach, the first anti-Messiah leader in history. Trump is Assyrian. You know, the prophet Isaiah talked about the Assyrian. I believe he was alluding to Nimrod because Nimrod's kingdom, one of the 10 provinces in Nimrod's kingdom was Ashur. Asshur. Ashur is an ancient name for Assyria. So when Isaiah the prophet is talking about the Assyrian, I believe that's an allusion to Nimrod. Okay. How many of you know that the reason why the United States went to war with Iraq is because supposedly Saddam Hussein exhumed the body of Nimrod or Gilgamesh, which is like a Nephilim, supposedly. And our government found out that he had the body of Nimrod, and we wanted the Nephilim DNA from that body that they exhumed. And that's why we went to war with Iraq, to get the DNA of Nimrod. And it wouldn't surprise me if they used that DNA in the V. Okay, in the V. Trump is Poseidon. The reason I use that is because a friend of mine had a dream that Trump was like Poseidon, the sea monster, the beast coming up out of the sea, and he had a trident, like the pitchfork. Trump is Nero, he's a type of Nero. There's been many articles that describe Trump's personality as being very similar to Nero Caesar. Trump is Roman. There's been some genealogical studies about Trump. They have found that he can trace his lineage back to the Assyrians and the Romans, and his mother is a Scottish Jew, Mary MacLeod. She's from the tribe of Dan. Trump is Judas, 666. Trump is Nebuchadnezzar, 666. Trump is Tyrus. The Prince of Tyrus in Ezekiel 28 is really talking about Satan. Trump is Pope. Is it possible that Trump will crown himself as the Pope? The word Pope is father, and people are calling Trump daddy. So is it possible that Trump will eliminate the Pope, that he will execute him, be the world ruler, and that, he will become Pope? Just like Charlemagne. Charlemagne was a political leader. He was not a clergyman. We're so used to thinking of a pope as somebody that rises to power out of the clergy. But Charlemagne was a king of France. He was of Germanic descent. All our United States presidents, believe it or not, are genetically related to Charlemagne. He was coronated as the Pope of the Holy Roman Empire in the year 800. So everyone who is selected as a president is not voted into office by the people. They are selected based on their pedigree, based on their genealogical bloodline. So every president that we've had is genetically related to Pope Charlemagne. So it wouldn't surprise me if Trump rose to power and crowns himself as the Pope of the Holy Roman Empire. Okay. And then, of course, the V word, mark of the beast, is 666. The Prince of Grecia is Alexander the Great. So that also adds up to 666. There's many more, but I won't go into it here. So Trump's name embedded in all these terms adds up to 666 more than anybody else. Okay. Trump rolled out the 666V on December 21st, 2020 at the winter solstice. He called it a great Christmas miracle. Okay. Thus showing himself a repeat of other historical antichrists who forced beast worship on December 25th, the day of the rebirth of the sun. And I did this graphic here. I made this graphic back on March 21st, 2020. As you can see at the top, it says that V is an abomination to the human temple. The first abomination of desolation was with Antiochus IV in 167 BC. He erected an image of Zeus and sacrificed pigs on the altar. His image was on the temple coin. The second abomination of desolation was Titus, General Titus. He laid siege to Jerusalem in 70 AD. He erected an image of Jupiter. Jupiter is the same deity as Zeus. Only difference is Jupiter is the Roman name. Zeus is the Greek name. They sacrificed unclean pigs on the altar. The Nero Caesar's image was on the temple coin. And so then we have another abomination of desolation, which was touted by Trump on December 25th, 2020, as the great Christmas miracle. December 25th. We can see the ingredients are unclean, aborted, you know what, pig, rabbit, horse, dog. The ingredients, I list the ingredients here. Too small to read, but in Leviticus 11:4-47, it says, "These shall you not eat: rabbit, mouse, swine, horse, dog, human cadaver, carcasses of dead humans or animals, blood of either clean or unclean creatures, human blood." All these things are unclean. Yahuwah says, "You shall not make yourselves abominable with any creeping thing that creeps, neither shall you make yourselves unclean with them, that you should be defiled thereby. For I am Yahuwah, your Elohim." The fourth abomination of desolation in the Jerusalem temple, I believe, will be built by Donald Trump. I believe he's going to build a temple there. And then there will be an image made to the beast. I believe this image could end up being a clone of Jesus, just like this movie that just came out in January called The Devil Conspiracy. It's supposed to be about the Shroud of Turin, and that they cloned Jesus from the shroud, and that it's going to be offered up as a sacrifice to Satan. Can you believe that? That's just crazy. But that's what the movie's about. So Trump's image is on the temple coin. Are you seeing the pattern yet? Are you seeing the pattern yet? As I said, Antiochus Epiphanes gave himself the title Epiphania, which in Greek is God manifest. It has a numerical value of 666. Caesar in Roman numerals and also in Hebrew adds up to 666. President Donald Trump adds up to 666, and the V also adds up to 666. And I know some people are saying that we're already in the Great Tribulation. They're saying that when Trump rolled out the V, that was the beginning of the Great Tribulation. And they say that there's not going to be a brick and mortar temple. They say that we're already in the Great Tribulation. But let me show you why that's not possible. Scripture clearly foretells of the temple in Jerusalem during the Great Tribulation. Now, yeah, our body is a temple for the Holy Spirit. That's true. And yes, the V is an abomination to the human temple. Absolutely. That's a foreshadowing. But Daniel 8:11 makes it clear there's going to be a brick and mortar temple. The false Messiah will take away the daily sacrifices, and he will set up an abominable image in its place. Daniel 11:31 says the same thing. Daniel 12:11 says the same thing. Matthew 24:15-21. Our Messiah reiterates the prophecies of Daniel, and he tells us that the Great Tribulation cannot begin until we see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place. It has to be something we see with our eyes. 2 Thessalonians 2:4 talks about the man of sin who will sit in the temple of Elohim, showing himself that he is Elohim. In Revelation 11:1-2, we are told that the Malach, the angel, is told to measure. What is he told to measure? 3 separate and distinct things: the temple, the altar, and the people. Okay. And the angel is told not to measure the outer court. So this is clearly speaking of a brick and mortar temple, not a human body. Not a human body. Now, like I said, I do believe the V is an abomination to the human body, but it doesn't stop there. There's also going to be a literal brick and mortar temple. Okay? So don't think that we're already in the Great Tribulation. It has not begun yet. Now, here's a picture I wanted to find on my computer. There's 3 sections to the temple. There's the ulam, which is called the outer court, right? There's the hekel, which is the holy place. Okay, this is where the altar of incense is, the 7-branch menorah, the table of showbread. And then there's the Holy of Holies, which is also called the Beit HaMikdash. So there's 3 sections. Now, when you look at the word temple in 2 Thessalonians, where Paul, the Apostle Shaul, says that the man of sin would sit in the temple of Elohim, that word is naos, the Greek word naos. And when you look at what it says that the naos represents the 2 sections of the temple, but it doesn't include the outer court. It doesn't include this piece right here, which makes sense because in Revelation 11, it says not to measure the outer court because it'll be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles for 42 months. Now, if we're going to say that the temple's only the human body, then be prepared to have your human body trampled on for 42 months during the tribulation. Okay? That's hilarious that people think that it's only the human body and there's no brick and mortar temple. It's both. It's both. Okay? It's both. Okay? I just need to reiterate that. Okay, so the mRNA technology for this medicine, I'm using words that aren't going to get me in trouble with YouTube. For this V has been shown to remove the Yod-Hey Wah-Hey. Okay, the signature on the DNA, human DNA, is our father's name. Okay, it's been shown to remove that, and it replaces it with a triple helix, interrupting the sequence of the Yod-Hey Wah-Hey and replacing it with a triple helix strand with 666 in its place. I have other blogs that I've written about that. Okay, the image, name, and number of the beast. I recommend that you read that. This is an article that was published on August 11th, 2020. This woman, Dr. I don't want to say her full name, TDK, on the use of, you know what? I'm going to just point to it so you can see the words, but I'm not going to say it. These are in the V. She says babies born at 5 to 6 months old, alive, with beating hearts, and no anesthesia. And so this is definitely in the V. Okay. So the Great Conjunction of December 21st, 2020 was falsely being touted on the news media as the Star of Bethlehem, but it was a conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. The original Star of Bethlehem was when our Messiah was born. It was on the Feast of Trumpets in 3 BC. It was a conjunction of Venus and Jupiter, not a conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. And so the night our Messiah was born was a fulfillment of Revelation 12. It was the Virgin, Virgo, Betula. She was giving birth to the lion. Okay, and here it is. So the night our Messiah was born, the astronomical record shows that he was born on the 1st of Tishri, or Etanim, which is the 7th Hebrew month. And it was Virgo. Underneath her feet was the first crescent, the sliver. She was giving birth to Ariel, the lion. Hamalek is the king. That's the planet Venus. That's what the Hebrews call it. The heathens hijacked the names of the planets and gave them names of pagan deities. But originally, the planet Venus was called the king, Hamalek. And then Hadzadik is Jupiter. So these 2 planets together, Venus and Jupiter, represent the king of righteousness, the Melchizedek. And so this was the original Star of Bethlehem. But the news media were lying and saying that the Saturn and Jupiter was the Star of Bethlehem. Okay. We know the Star of Bethlehem appeared on the first day of the seventh Hebrew month, which is the Feast of Trumpets. Okay. And I had studied that in depth back in 2002. The Star That Astonished the World by Ernest L. Martin. I highly recommend it. It's extremely intriguing book. And I totally verified his findings by doing my own research. Okay, and I have two blogs here. When was the Messiah of Israel born? When was the real Messiah born? And why does it matter? Now, you'll notice that the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, which appeared on December 21st, 2020, which was the winter solstice, this was the date that Trump announced that he was rolling these things out. It has him shooting a poisoned bow and arrow. So you have starting with November 22nd through December 21st, the day that Trump announced these on Twitter, he's got the poisoned bow and arrow. This matches what it says in Revelation 6:2. And I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow. And I did an etymological study on this word bow. It's the word toxon, and it literally means poisoned bow and arrows. Even though they don't use the word arrows in this passage, the word toxon means both poisoned bow and arrows. And it says, when you look it up, the arrows are dipped in poison and then shot through its victim to kill them in two ways. So if the arrow doesn't kill them, the poison will. And it says he was given a crown. That word crown in Latin is corona. And of course, that was the authority from Pope Francis to roll out the climate change agenda. And he goes forth conquering and to conquer. And then the next sign begins on December 22nd through January 19th. Did you know that the last day of Trump's office as president was January 19th, 2021? The Capricorn is the goat. Revelation 13:11 says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb. In other words, like a he-goat. The he-goat being Alexander the Great in prophecy, like a he-goat, and he spoke as a dragon. Okay, so we don't have this conjunction matching any event related to Charles at all. But we do have this conjunction appearing that same time that Trump was rolling out the V. Same time. Okay. So this was the date that the news was reporting the counterfeit Star of Bethlehem, which was on the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. So on the last day of the cycle of Capricorn, Saturn was January 19th, 2021. This was Trump's last day in office as POTUS before Biden stepped in. So to understand this sex magic ritual that was being conducted in plain sight on January 6, 2021, I recommend reading my blog called The Mystery Behind the Insurrection at the Capitol Dome. Now, there is astounding evidence for Trump as the rider on the white horse, which was confirmed on the Great Conjunction of 2020. So, number 3, Tim Cohen uses the fact that Prince Charles's family coat of arms displays the dragon from Revelation 13:4. There's the dragon, which gives power unto the beast. He also shows that the coat of arms has a white horse with a unicorn. There's the white horse with the unicorn. Okay, my objection to number 3. While this is certainly compelling, it does not say in Scripture that the beast possesses such a family crest Donald Trump comes from the same royal bloodline of the Merovingians, just the same as the House of Windsor does, the royal family. Therefore, Trump's ancestors bears the same coat of arms as King Charles, as I will illustrate later. So, and I'm also going to show Trump's coat of arms as well. Okay, Prince Charles's birthday on November 14th, 1948. So Tim Cohen cites that Prince Charles was born 6 months after Israel became a nation on May 14th, 1948, to the date, thus attempting to prove that this is a harbinger that Charles is the Antichrist. Okay, my objection to number 4. Donald J. Trump was born on June 14th, 1946, on a full moon on a total lunar eclipse. It was also on a rare blood red moon. His date of birth was exactly 700 days before Israel became a nation on May 14th, 1948. On Trump's first day in office, he was 70 years old, 7 months, and 7 days old. 777. He was also inaugurated in the Jewish year 5777, and he beat Hillary Clinton by 77 electoral votes because 7 electors defected. Exactly 7 months after Trump's first full day in office, there was a total solar eclipse over the United States continent, a path that June 14th, 1946 occurred on a blood red moon and midpoint of his first term, which was January 20th, 2019. So at the midpoint of his first term, the same total solar eclipse occurred over America. And it was the same as when he was born, which was a lunar eclipse, but it was on June 14th, 1946. Forbes ranked Donald Trump the 770th richest person in the world. President Trump was also elected on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's 7th year. It was his 7th year, the 7th month, and the 7th day in office. So you see all these things occurring with 777. Now, some people might say, well, 7's a good number. It's a number of covenant. Well, sure. But you see, even the Illuminati likes to use the 777 to their twisted purpose. Okay, Trump's birth was planned by the Illuminati, I believe, since 1896. The book entitled The Last President, it was written by Ingersoll Lockwood. Trump's mother, Mary Ann McLeod, MM, her name, MM, is an allusion to Mary Magdalene, because, in the Rosicrucian cult, they teach that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married and they had a child together. And they were, she was whisked off to Paris, France, when he was crucified so that she wouldn't be killed and the child in her womb would not be killed. Trump's mother was a Scottish Jew. This can be verified by researcher Yar Davidi. Trump's ancestry goes all the way back to the English monarchy and the Davidic monarchy on his mother's side of the family, which I will explain later. So Trump's royal bloodline, I'm going to be talking about that in the next podcast. So Trump has a lot of royal blood, even more so than Charles does. Okay. Trump's family believe they are directly descended from an alleged marriage between Jesus and Mary Magdalene. The film called The Da Vinci Code gives hidden messages about Trump as the product of this union. In esoteric Gnosticism, they call the womb of Mary Magdalene the Holy Grail. This is why Trump frequently displays the upside down triangle with his hands. The inverted triangle represents the female womb, and the right side up triangle in Freemasonry symbolizes male fertility. So here you see Trump doing this all the time. this is his famous signature. If he only did it a couple times here and there, but no, this is pretty consistent. He displays this all the time, all the time. And there's a reason for it. He's letting us know, he's letting the global elites know who he is. He's calling himself the chosen one. He's calling himself the Holy Grail, the product of the Holy Grail from the womb of Mary Magdalene, because these people that are these global elites, they're these aristocrats from Europe that claim they are descended directly from Jesus and Mary Magdalene. This is why he has no problem calling himself the chosen one, because he knows he has the right royal bloodline, supposedly. Okay, now I want to illustrate this graphic right here. As you can see, and I already mentioned, there's 3 power structures. Washington, D.C. is the military. The Vatican City is the religious, and the Bank of London is the financial. At the Roman power pyramid, it says Jesuits, Illuminati, Knights of Templar, Knights of Malta, 32-degree Masons, 32 degrees plus. Okay. Organized religion, secret service and societies, military, police, mafia, the United Nations, the G20, NATO, big banks, big media, big industry, national, regional, and local politics, NGOs, think tanks, big charities. So this is the Roman power pyramid. The Vatican City flag displays the keys. There's, like when Yahushua said to Peter, I will give you the keys to the kingdom, that whatsoever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatsoever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. The Catholic Church falsely teaches that every pope is a successor of St. Peter. This is why they have the 2 keys crossing each other. But the reason why the 2 keys are crossing each other is an allusion to the skull and bones crossing each other. And as you can see, there are, I think there's 12 stars. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, 13 stars for the 13 colonies, original colonies in America. The Washington, D.C. flag is another representation of the city of Jerusalem. They call Washington, D.C. the second Jerusalem. Okay. Their role in the power structure is war and terror, the Zionist government. The city of London represents Wall Street, New York, money and finance, the Rothschild banking system. They've got the upside down cross here. And the 3 power structures of Daniel 7:24, the little horn shall subdue 3 kings. Now, of course, Trump did sign the Abraham Accords with 3 nations, Israel, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates. But also, I wonder if him subduing 3 kings has to do with these 3 power structures: London, finance, Vatican religion, Washington, D.C., military. That's another possibility. I'm still, the jury's still out on that. Now, here's Trump's. This is his coat of arms. As you can see, he's got an arrow in his hand. What does Revelation 6:2 tell us? That the rider on the white horse is given a poisoned bow and arrow. Don't you think it's a little interesting that he's got an arrow grasping, a hand grasping the arrow? And he's got 3 lions. 3 lions. I believe these 3 lions represent this power structure: London, Vatican, and Washington, D.C. Is it possible that the 3 lions represent that he's subduing these 3 power structures, these 3 kings? I don't know yet. Like I said, the jury's still out on that. Also, the 2 chevrons. The chevron is the right side up triangle that represents the male, the male fertility. So he's got 2 chevrons on his coat of arms. Trump's coat of arms with an arrow symbolizing interest on Vatican and Rothschild loans seized. I believe Trump is going to take down the cabal, just as the QAnon people have been saying all along, not because he's a good guy, though, but because he wants to be the only one in charge. So first, it's going to look really good, and people are going to be fooled by it, and they're going to go, wow, he's going to take down the IRS. He's going to go take us back to the gold standard. I mean, it's going to look good. He is going to make America great again. I truly believe he will do that, but it's going to be very short-lived. It's not going to last at all. And so here's the NESARA Act. NESARA stands for National Economic Security and Reformation Act. What does it entail? It forgives credit cards, debt, mortgage, and other bank debt due to illegal banking and government activities. It abolishes the income tax. It abolishes IRS, creates flat rate non-essential new items only, sales tax revenue for government. It increases benefits to senior citizens, returns constitutional law, establishes new presidential and congressional elections within 120 days after NESARA's announcement, monitors elections and prevents illegal election activities or special interest groups, creates new U.S. Treasury currency called rainbow currency, backed by gold, silver, and platinum, precious metals, returns constitutional law to all our courts and legal matters, initiates new U.S. Treasury bank system in alignment with constitutional law. It eliminates the Federal Reserve System, restores financial privacy, restrains all judges and attorneys in constitutional law, ceases all aggressive U.S. government military actions worldwide, establishes peace throughout the world, initiates first phase of worldwide prosperity distribution of vast wealth which has been accumulating for many decades, releases enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes, enables the release of new technologies such as alternative energy devices. So this all sounds really, really good. But there's going to be a catch. There's always a catch. The catch will be you will have to sell your soul to the devil to be able to partake of the NESARA Act. Okay? So the three lions on Trump's coat of arms, I believe, symbolizes the fact that he will rule over these three power structures and become the world ruler. As a matter of fact, the name Donald means world ruler. But what does the name Charles mean? It means free man. That's what it means, free man. In fact, Trump's ancestors were the Plantagenet kings of England, such as King Henry II. You'll notice that King Henry had three lions also on his coat of arms, just like Trump's coat of arms. And I did a lot of research on this. Trump was related to King Henry II, a Plantagenet king of England. King Henry II was the first in a long line of Plantagenet kings of England, also known as Henry Plantagenet, Kurt Mantle, or Fitz Empress. Henry was the first of Matilda and Geoffrey of Anjou, the grandson of King Henry I. He grew to be a charismatic, intelligent man who could speak many languages, which proved useful when communicating across his multilingual territories as king. However, Henry II was also renowned for his fiery temper and extreme outbursts of anger. Perhaps his aggressive temperament made the king successful in controlling his vast Angevin islands, while also making peace after years of civil war by King Stephen. So it says he was born March 5th in the year 1133 in Le Mans, France, and he reigned between 1154 and 1189. He was crowned on December 19th, 1154 at the Westminster Abbey. So, Trump is definitely related to this guy. Trump's family crest also features a man's hand grasping an arrow, thus connecting him to the rider on the white horse of Revelation 6:2, who was given a crown that would be the papal authority, and a poisoned bow and arrow, which is, I believe, the deadly snake bite. Now, I didn't put this image in the blog, but I want to bring this out. This was a meeting that took place between Trump and Pope Francis, and this was back in May. It was May 24th, 2017. Pope Francis presented President Trump with a copy of his encyclical on climate change, aka Depopulation Agenda, to reduce the world's population down 95% to only 5% of the current population by 2030. This is also called Agenda 2021. This is code for Operation Warp Speed. The same thing happened on July 21st, 1933. Pope Pius the 12th met with Adolf Hitler to sign the Reichskonkordat Act, which would give Hitler free reign to begin World War II and to annihilate Jews in Germany, thus giving rise to a Jewish state for the end-time papal beast to rule in Jerusalem. Hitler annihilated 6 million Jews in Nazi prison camps between 1941 and 1945. That's during the 3.5 years. That's like the same period as the Great Tribulation, pretty much. Okay. So, having studied the strategies of the Jesuits or the Illuminati since the age of 14, you see, in 1974, I read the story of Alberto Rivera, who used to be a Jesuit. And I can say this, that these people are masters of diversion. The Illuminati have been creating imposter antichrists for centuries to throw people off so they will not be able to recognize the real man of sin when he steps onto the scene. I personally believe that Charles is a decoy so that most people will rule out Trump. Okay. There have been many more images made of Trump looking like a winged Lucifer than there have been of Prince Charles. Both Trump and King Charles come from the same 13th Illuminati Merovingian royal bloodline. I provide evidence of this in some of my other blogs. However, after learning about Trump's ancestry, there's proof that Trump is the one who's been chosen by the Illuminati to build the temple in Jerusalem because he has more royal blood, which will be manifest in the next coming days. I believe we are going to see Trump doing what the QAnon people claim he will do. I believe he will take down the cabal, and this may even include the royal family, the House of Windsor. And so we'll see. But let's get something straight. Just because the QAnon people are purporting this about Trump doesn't mean that I think Trump's a good guy or that he's a savior or a hero. The QAnon cult are deeply into New Age mysticism, but they are giving out secret intelligence about Trump and his future plans that we should not dismiss. I also learned that the Queen of England, who just died recently, that she supposedly knighted Trump in secret when he went to visit Buckingham Palace. Now, even though the internet consistently denies these claims, Trump made the claim on Twitter and then it disappeared soon after. Something we have to understand is that President Roosevelt once said, "Nothing done in politics is done by accident or by happenstance. Everything is carefully scripted and planned." The fact that Trump posted the tweet about being knighted by the Queen and then the media trying to desperately snuff out the rumor, I believe gives it more legitimacy, because when they protest too much about something, it usually sends the message that there must be truth to these rumors and they're covering it up. If they really didn't want us to know, they wouldn't even bring it up at all. But the fact that they bring it up and they protest loudly about it is meant to send out a message to the Illuminati. So you see a couple different news stories where it says Queen Elizabeth's death revives QAnon theory, Trump will become king of England. And that was posted on September 15th, 2022. And then let's see, there's another one. It says here, King Charles III signed a proclamation stating that Donald Trump won the 2020 presidential election and is the rightful president by law. Now, of course, this has been debunked. Charles, different people are saying it's not true, but you never know. Why did they bother putting these things out? Because the reason they put these news stories out in the first place, only to turn around and debunk them, is so that people in the high up Illuminati echelons will get the memo. That's why they put it out there.
And so that the sheeple go, that's already been debunked.
Right, exactly. It's like in a court of law when somebody says something on the witness stand and the attorney stands up and says, "I object, Your Honor," and he tells the court reporter to strike that from the record. Well, even though it's been stricken from the record, the jury heard it. And you can't unhear something. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
Right. It's in the mind of the jurors. And they knew it was going to get, taken out of the record, but it's still in the mind of the jurors.
Right. So this is why they say these things in public and then it gets debunked. They don't care if it gets debunked. It's been said and you can't unhear what's been said. Okay. The fact that it's been put out there is a clue. Okay.
Exactly, Emmeline. It's for posturing. Yep.
Yeah. So this could be why Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle hate Trump. They snubbed him when he went to visit Buckingham Palace. Could it be that Trump is a closer relative to the Merovingian bloodline than the House of Windsor? I don't know. Could it be that they know and they're trying to hide this from the public? One huge reason why Trump is a much stronger candidate than King Charles for the man of sin is that the Jewish Talmud states that when the Messiah comes, he must rebuild the temple. And actually, scripture does say this. It says that when Messiah returns, it says he will rebuild the tabernacle of David that has fallen down. That's in Amos 9:11 and also in Acts 15:16. So we know the real Messiah is going to rebuild the tabernacle of David. The fact that they've already slated Trump to build the third temple, and this is from the Jerusalem Post, this is from Bin Exclusive, Bin Exclusive. This was dated November 10th, 2016. The Sanhedrin has requested that President-elect Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin work together to help build the temple. Now, this is the reason why the Democrats went after Trump about Russian collusion. And even though he was exonerated, you see, there are all these hints of things that are just being put out there in the mind of the public. But because they get dismissed and because they become debunked, now you can't ever go back and make those claims again. So the political Zionists have already stated that Donald Trump is to build the Solomon's Temple.
Hey, by the way, cigarettes don't cause cancer. That's already been debunked.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
It has.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
Gosh. Crazy.
So the political Zionists have already slated Donald Trump to build Solomon's Temple, not David's tabernacle, as I believe this will be a repeat of Solomon's lavish decor with gold and treasures, much like the Trump Tower. King Charles does not have a legacy of being a real estate developer or a builder of towers, but Trump is a builder of towers, just like Nimrod. Nimrod was the first historical anti-Messiah. Trump has even built 11 towers all over the world. The most recent one, which was built in 2017 in Uruguay, resembles the same design as the Tower of Babel. Here it is. This is the one he built in Uruguay in 2017, Trump Tower. It's called Trump Tower Punta del Este in Uruguay. Then there's another article, 11 Trump Towers from around the world. Trump strongly resembles Nimrod in character because he's a builder of towers, just as Nimrod built the Tower of Babel. And it says he ruled over 10 provinces in the land of Shinar. Genesis chapter 10. That's an allusion to the 10 horns on the beast. The profile of the little horn in Daniel's prophecy is one of a military strategist, somebody who is like Nimrod. The phrase mighty hunter that applied to Nimrod also applies to Trump, because the QAnon people are claiming that Trump is hunting down the sex traffickers and the cabal. And you're going to see here a picture that I'm going to show from an archaeological dig featuring a stone sculpture of Nimrod, the mighty hunter with a bow and arrow. This is an allusion to the rider on the white horse in Revelation 6:2, and he goes forth conquering. So this is a real artifact that was found of Nimrod and his bow and arrow. See, the Hebrew word for hunter means the game, and it has a Latin root, gamble, as in gambling casinos. The little horn is also fulfilled by Trump because he subdued 3 kings, Daniel 7:24, with the Abraham Accords. We didn't see Charles subduing 3 kings. The Abraham Accords consist of the same territories that were conquered by Alexander the Great under the Grecian Empire, represented by the leopard. See, in modern times, the leopard represents Nazi Germany, and Hitler is also a type of Alexander the Great, conquering 10 European nations. However, after World War II, under the Yalta Agreement, Germany and Berlin were divided up into 4 territories. These 4 territories were America, the Soviet Union, France, and Great Britain. This was similar to what happened after Alexander the Great died and his empire then fell to his 4 generals. The Yalta Agreement of 1945 established the United States of America as the 8th king of Revelation 17:10 through 11. So here are the empires of history. We have Egypt, Assyria is number 2, Babylon is number 3, 4 is Medo-Persia, 5 is Greece, 6 is Rome, 7 is Great Britain, and 8, the 8th king that is mentioned in Revelation 17, is the United States of America, which became a world superpower in 1945 under the Yalta Agreement. Now, Gary and I were listening to an interview the other night with Glenn Beck and Tucker Carlson, and Glenn Beck is saying, America has now become a banana republic. We're no longer the superpower anymore. I believe that's just a temporary thing. I believe Trump's going to come back. He's going to do what Hitler did with Germany. He's going to make America great again. He's going to conquer these 10 regions, and it's just going to be very temporary. America's going to seem like it's great again before the Messiah returns.
It'll seem like a renaissance.
Yes.
Before things get crazy dictatorial.
Exactly. In Zechariah 1:18 through 20, it tells us there were 4 horns that scattered Israel, Jerusalem, and Judah. These 4 horns that persecuted the people of the covenant are the first 4 horns in history. These first 4 horns are Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, and Medo-Persia. Today, these same regions that signed the Abraham Accords are as follows: Israel, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates. 2 months later, the Accords were also signed by Egypt, Jordan, Sudan, and Morocco. Thus, Trump is a repeat of Alexander the Great, the he-goat, who broke the 2 horns of the ram. According to Daniel 8:20, the ram are the kings of Media and Persia, which is modern-day Iran, Iraq, and Syria. In January of 2020, Trump authorized the killing of Iranian general Qasem Soleimani, which ultimately led to a significant defeat of ISIS and the Islamic Caliphate. We haven't seen King Charles doing things like this. Have you seen King Charles defeating, the Islamic Caliphate? No way. I mean, Charles doesn't fit any of these characteristics, okay? Here I have the link to Trump authorized Soleimani's killing. Did Trump really beat ISIS? So how does this tie into the prophecy of the little horn? Well, in Daniel 8:4, Daniel says, I saw the ram, Iran, Iraq, and ISIS, that would be who the ram represents, pushing westward and northward and southward so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. Daniel 8:5 says, And as I was considering a he-goat from the west, the west, that's America, a he-goat from the west, on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. There's the image. You got Daniel having this vision of the he-goat with a notable horn, and he strikes at the ram. The ram represents Media and Persia. Okay, and Daniel 8:6 says, and he, meaning America, came to the ram that had the two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. Daniel 8:7 says, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and broke his two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Daniel 8:8, therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and he was strong. The great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. Here's the explanation. Trump is a repeat of Alexander the Great, which is the leopard. However, in modern times, the leopard represents Nazi Germany under Hitler. Okay? The Grecian Empire fell to four of Alexander's generals, and from those four regions came up a little horn, which at that time was Antiochus Epiphanes, who defiled the second temple of Elohim. The name Epiphanes means God manifest and has the numerical value of 666. So what we see is that Trump is a repeat of Alexander the Great, the leopard, but he's also the he-goat as well, okay? Because the leopard became the Grecian Empire, and the Grecian Empire fell to four of Alexander's generals. Okay, in Daniel 8:9, it says, out of one of them came a little horn, which waxed exceeding great towards the south and towards the east and towards the pleasant land. The pleasant land is Israel. And the ram which you saw having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. Daniel 8:21, and says, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Daniel 8:22 says, now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his own power. In Daniel 8:23, it says, in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding, dark sentences shall stand up. Okay, so here's the explanation. The term dark sentences in Hebrew is kidah. Kidah means a puzzle, a riddle, a trick. We know this is one of Donald Trump's traits because he has been studying Kabbalah magic since the 1980s. This is by his own admission in his book, The Way to the Top. He also recited the poem about the snake and the woman, tricking everyone into thinking that it was about immigration. However, in 2020, we all began to realize that Trump was telling us that he is the snake and that he was going to bite the woman with a nasty bite. The woman, obviously, are those that belong to Messiah, those of the remnant. Now, I have another blog that goes into detail about the poem that Trump recited, President Trump's poem about the snake and the woman. I will do another podcast about this later, but it's obvious what he was intimating, that he himself was the snake. So I'll get into this another time. I did a graphic here. You can see Nikolai Carpathia, who plays the part of the Antichrist in the Left Behind movie. He's holding up a syringe of this green serum, and he looks eerily similar to Trump when he was young. I mean, you can see it. It's just crazy how much he looks like him. And it says right here, he looks eerily similar to a young Donald Trump. The green serum is obviously a hint about Trump's snakebite poem. A new study published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation has identified a snake venom related enzyme that may be the key cause of related mortality. Okay. So I don't see Charles having anything to do with this sort of thing. Do you? Have you heard about Charles developing something that is called a snake bite? Not me. So I don't know about you, but Trump fits more than anybody that I know about the one who rolls out this mark that also has the same number of his name. Okay. So let's go here. All right. So the QAnon people are always claiming that Trump speaks in code. As already said, Marina Abramovich, the spirit cooking witch, was asked what she thought of Trump, and she said that she went to talk to the shamans, and she revealed in the interview that Trump is playing the role of the magician and the tarot cards. Now, I talk about that in my other blog called Is President Trump a Globalist? I used to have it up on YouTube, but they took it down because I accidentally used the V word. So in this blog, Marina Abramovich claims that Trump is playing the role of the magician. Now, here's the magician tarot card. You can see the infinity sign, which is a number 8 sideways. It's what the Meta, Facebook Meta is using. It's the infinity sign, and he's called the magician. But I did some research on this, and I found out that the fool is closely related to the magician. Let me explain. Okay, according to the occult world, the tarot cards of the fool and the magician are closely related. It is suggested that President Trump has to play the fool in his first term of presidency, enduring persecution, hatred, and death threats. This was intentionally done by the Luciferians in order to transition America and the world into their new age of enlightenment. To achieve this, President Trump had to first play the fool, which is like the martyr. He plays the martyr so that he could transition in his next term to the hero. So this gives him the same type of legacy as a Messiah-like figure. Okay? So after listening to Marina Abramovich and her video clip here, she says that Trump is the magician. He's playing the role of the magician to wake us up. That's what she said. She compares him to the tarot card of the magician, and she says that Trump is being used to usher the world into the age of enlightenment. This is what Marina Abramovich, the spirit cooking witch, says. Okay? So, Scripture tells us that the little horn destroys many people by peace. Daniel 8:25. There was a clause in the Abraham Accords stipulating that all citizens of these countries who signed the Abraham Accords were expected to cooperate with the V. Let me find it. Abraham. Okay, I'm going to find the Abraham Accords. There it is. You can see, I'm going to make it larger. There's a clause that says joint statement of the United States, the State of Israel, and the United Arab Emirates. Right here it says United Arab Emirates and Israel will immediately expand and accelerate cooperation regarding the treatment of and the development of a V for the, Corona V. Working together, these efforts will help save Muslim, Jewish, and Christian lives throughout the region. We know that's a lie. We know that it's exactly the opposite. It's not going to save lives, does exactly the opposite. Now, this is another graphic showing that the coin for the United Arab Emirates peace deal, Abraham Accords, you can see, if you look up close, you can see satellite surveillance, space technology. You can see the dove with the olive branch in his beak, the planet Saturn, okay, which is another name for Satan. You can see syringes. You can see satellite technology. There's a heart monitor. All these things on the back of the coin. And it's got his name on it, Donald John Trump. Okay, so the Abraham Accord coin is telling us the whole picture. It's telling us what they're planning and what they're doing. We haven't seen Charles doing anything like this. The little horn also is the second beast of Revelation 11:13. He causes the world to receive a mark. He doesn't say he forces it yet. He causes the world to receive a mark that has the same numerical value as the number of his name. Okay? Trump has made a significant impact on the Middle East since 2017. He has subdued the Middle East in a military strike. No, I mean, he hasn't, I should say, he hasn't subdued the Middle East with a military strike yet. But I believe if he comes back, he will take Iran to task. I believe he will subdue Iran in some way. So the 4 Arab states, I believe, are the 4 notable horns of Daniel 8. Daniel 8:5 and Daniel 8:8. It says right here, and as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Daniel 8:8 says, therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones, once toward the 4 winds of heaven. Now, guess what? The Hebrew word for notable in this passage is kazut, and it says an agreement or a compact. After Trump became very great, he supposedly lost the 2020 election, and his horn or his power was broken. However, we have seen him do this in the past. The news media frequently calls him the Hydra, because the Hydra monster, you can chop off one of his heads and 2 more will grow back in his place. The election fraud investigations are still taking place where? In Phoenix, Arizona. And there's a strategic purpose for this. In the occult world, they deliberately go through what I've already said, a humiliation ritual, so they can become like the phoenix who rises up from the ashes. Okay, let's see. I'm just kind of skipping over some things. Charles has none of these characteristics. Who is more stout than his fellows? The little horn has a look that is more stout than his fellows. Let me go to that blog real quick. So one of the characteristics of the little horn is that it says he has a look that is more stout than his fellows. Now, this was at the G Summit meeting. There you have Trump, who is more stout. Now, Justin Trudeau's a little bit taller than him, but he's slender. Stout, if you look it up, we're going to show you what the name stout means. Daniel 7:20 says that, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. Now, what does this word stout mean? It's the Hebrew word rab. It's number H7229, and it means captain, chief, great, lord, or master, or stout. But it has a root word, means huge in size, domineering in character, and it also means great, huge and great. Now, Trump uses those words more than any other political leader. He always says it's going to be huge, huge, with his New York accent. And he always says great about everything. Great and huge are his signature words. The definition for the word stout: heavy built, corpulent, thick set, fat, bold, brave, dauntless, stubborn, resolute, forceful, vigorous. I can think of only one person on the political world stage right now who fits this description, and it's President Donald Trump. Neither Prince Charles nor Emmanuel Macron nor Obama fits this stout description.
Now, some might say that Trudeau does. He's as tall
but
as
he's
Trump.
not fat.
No, he's not. And he's arrogant, and he's even pushy. But you look at all the clues broadly, Trump surpasses him by far.
Oh, yeah. It says bulky in figure, heavy built, corpulent, thick set, fat. An example they use is she's getting too stout for her dresses. Bold, brave, dauntless, firm, stubborn, resolute, forceful, vigorous. I mean, there's nobody that fits this more than Trump does. So I did an etymology. It says that the word stout comes from the German word stolt, which means proud, stately, strutting. He struts. He's haughty. He's arrogant. The dictionary says he is strong of character. He's brave. He's bold. He's firm. He's determined. He's obstinate. He's uncompromising. Now, you'll notice that when other people sit in the presence of Trump, he does the man spread with his famous, feminine divine triangle that he makes. And Justin Trudeau, there was a body language expert who saw this and said that Trudeau crossing his legs shows he's in submission to Trump while Trump does the famous man spread. Okay. Now, it says in Daniel 8:23 that in the latter times of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. The Hebrew word for fierce is translated as harsh, greedy, or rough. And that word is az in Hebrew. It's strong, vehement, harsh, fierce, greedy, mighty, power, roughly, and strong. The word, the root word is azaz, to be stout, to harden, to be impudent, to prevail, to strengthen, to be strong. Okay. Fierce countenance. I looked up the word fierce in Hebrew, az. It means harsh, greedy, rough. Look at his facial expressions. Harsh, greedy, and rough. Daniel 7:20. The little horn has a mouth that speaks very great things, and his look is more stout than his fellows. Trump has a look that is more stout than his fellows. Okay. This was, in this blog, I talk about Marina Abramovich. She was interviewed and she says that Trump is the magician. She states that the shamans spoke to her about Trump, saying that he is bringing about a worldwide awakening and that he's playing the role of the magician in the tarot cards. And here's the characteristics of the magician: a creator, skills, knowledge, free will, intention, information, abilities, creativity, willpower, professional, intelligence, focus, convincing, dexterous, sources, practitioner, analytical, master of the craft, charismatic, communication, action, manifestation of ideas. But he's also manipulative, a fraud, an illusionist, a con man, fake, charlatan, trickster, liar, machinator, and abuse of power. So those are the negative sides to the magician. I would say that fits Trump pretty well. So the QAnon people, like I said, they always say that he speaks in code. He read the snake poem out loud, and he was telling us that he is the snake that gives the woman a nasty bite. And there's more to this. Basically, when you compare Trump to King Charles, he does not have those characteristics of the little horn the way Trump does. He's not more stout. You can definitely see that Trump is definitely more stout, than Charles, right? You can see that.
And he's brash. He's obnoxious. He's unapologetic.
Exactly. In fact, when he rolled out the V and called it a great Christmas miracle, this was on December 21st, 2020, the same day the Gallup poll voted him as the most admired man. Now, check this out. In Revelation 13:3, it says, "And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound healed, and all the world wandered after the beast." Now, this Greek word wound is plague. Didn't Trump survive the deadly plague in October of 2020? And what happened? He went on Twitter and said that my blood is the vaccine. And of course, that got deleted right away. Then his son, Don Jr., made a tweet about it. And so the Greek word for wandered is thaumazo, which means to be admired. Admired. So we have in Revelation 13:14, it says, "And he deceives them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles." So the miracle was that he survived the plague, that he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound or the plague by a sword. And this is interesting. The word sword here, when you look it up in the Greek, it means judicial punishment. It literally means judicial punishment. And he survived an impeachment. And then what? After he survived 2 impeachments at the CPAC event, they made a golden image of Trump after he survived the plague, after he survived the deadly wound by a sword, the sword being impeachment, and now the sword meaning judicial punishment, which he's going to survive. We know that he's going to survive that. Trump has been slated to build the temple, as I've already said. There are so many things named after Trump. The Trump train station, which is right now in Jerusalem. It's going to shuttle people from the Ben Gurion airport to the Temple Mounts. A new city quarter is named the Trump Town. A new city square in Jerusalem called Trump Square. The Golan Heights 24-hour house of prayer is named Trump Heights. His image is on the temple coin. Okay. And remember, when our Messiah said, "Whose image is on this coin?" They said, "Caesar," right? And he said, "Render therefore unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar." So even our Messiah recognized that the person whose image is on the coin is the person who's in charge, right? Okay, so if Trump's image is on the coin, then that's kind of a huge clue, right? That's a huge clue. I don't see Charles's image on any coin for Jerusalem, the temple in Jerusalem. Okay, so President Trump was dubbed the Shield of Jerusalem. This was dated May 14th, 2018. Jerusalem Affairs Minister says no doubt this event will be taught in history as the watershed in Jerusalem's status because Trump made Jerusalem the capital city again. And as already said, Trump is related to the Plantagenet kings. One of them is William I, the Conqueror. Trump's mother, her name is Mary Ann MacLeod. She is a Scottish Jew, or was. She's deceased now. She, on her side of the family, she was related to Norman, King of England. King William I was England's king of the north, described in Daniel 11. So Trump fits into the description of the king of the north. The Plantagenet kings were descendants from a king of Jerusalem named the Count of Anjou, who ruled the city of Jerusalem from 1131 through 1143. Thus, Donald Trump's ancestor was the king of Jerusalem, whose body today is buried in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The Count of Anjou was a very wealthy military commander of the Crusaders, and after they conquered the Muslims, he was crowned king of Jerusalem. His likeness was described by a contemporary historian that says he was ruddy. He was a ruddy man like King David. That's what the historian said. So anyway, there's a lot about Trump that people don't know, and I believe he's a much better fit for the little horn and Daniel's prophecy. And so we'll see what happens. But I definitely think that King Charles plays a role on the world stage, but I don't see him fitting into the characteristics of the little horn who subdues three kings. He's not the Alexander the Great, type of warrior. He's not that. He's the, he's more of the kind of like the laid back, more, reserved. Trump's the one with the, the guts. He's got the, got the brash personality. So, okay, we're done with this one. We're going to move on to the other one. We're going to go more into Trump's royal bloodline. Any comments or questions?
Michael.
So good day. Thank you so much for all this wonderful teaching and all your work of research. Praise the Lord. So person with me, her name is Osha. She has a question.
Sure.
As an intercessor. She asks, well, what if, and this is a good question, what if our job is to pray for Trump to be turned around? And my answer was, well, if he is the spoken of little horn, so to say, it's proven, then it's maybe our job to more warn people.
That's right.
So I mean, like Hitler, he was, I mean, we could loosely say now maybe given over to Satan. So I mean, the heart of an intercessor wants to pray for anybody or everyone. So what would be your answer? It's a little off key.
Oh,
off subject.
No, not at all. So let me explain that. Like the night I was first born again, which was in 1981, it was February the 10th, 1981. I was feeling very suicidal that night. I wouldn't have gone through with it, but I was at one of my lowest points because I had suffered a lot of traumatic things in the Roman Catholic school, a lot of mental abuse by the nuns and the kids, that the nuns, egged on the children to make fun of me. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but the point being is that I was crying out to the Father and saying, why am I here? What did you call Maria Merola to do with her life? Why am I even here? Like, I wanted to understand what my purpose in life was. Why am I here? What did you create me for? And I heard him say this in my spirit very distinctly. I've called you to warn my people about the coming Antichrist.
Yeah.
That's what he said. I was stunned because here I was 20 years old. I knew very little about end time prophecy, very little other than what I saw in the late great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey, but I knew very little. And my reaction was, Father, I don't even know what that looks like,
Sure.
So you can imagine he gives me this very tall order and tells me that my mission in life, my number one calling in life, is to warn people in the end of days about the coming Antichrist. So I'm just like, okay. So you can imagine that it's been my main mission since then to study these things and to be prepared to step into my role as what Yahuwah told me that's why I'm here. And he told me that all the things that I went through as a child in Catholic school was to prepare me for this calling. And then in 1997, I was going through an unwanted divorce. I didn't want the divorce, but my then husband was cheating on me with a woman in the church, a married woman at that. And I was just really going through a lot with all of that. And I was crying out and saying, Father, I need you to tell me like what it is you've called me to do. And once again, he says to go and read Ezekiel chapter 3. And as I'm reading Ezekiel chapter 3, he says, I've called you to be a watchman to the house of Israel. And he says, give them warning from me. And he says, and I'm sending you to a people who are stiff-necked. They're not going to hear you. They're going to reject your message. Nevertheless, he says, if you don't warn them, their blood will be on your hands. And then he tells me, I've made your forehead like a stone, harder than flint have I made your forehead. I'm reading Ezekiel 3 and it's like describing me. In other words, I'm going to make you like a stubborn, hard-headed person that's going to say, I don't care what people think.
Amen.
I'm going to give the message that Yahuwah told me to give, whether they will hear it or whether they will not hear it. Okay? That's the message he gave me. He says, I have made your face strong against their faces and your forehead strong against their foreheads. As an adamant, harder than flint have I made your forehead. Fear them not, neither be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious house.
Yes.
And he says, moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, all my words that I shall speak unto you, receive in your heart and hear with your ears. And go get you to them of the captivity unto the children of your people, and speak unto them, and tell them, thus says Yahuwah Elohim, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear. And then he goes on and he says, if you don't warn them, their blood is on your hands. He says, Son of man, I have made you a watchman to the house of Israel. Therefore, hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. When I say unto the wicked, you shall surely die, and you give him not warning, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at your hand. Yet if you warn the wicked, and he turns not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but you have delivered your soul. So I don't have a choice. I really don't. Now, I want to say this, and I'm going to go out on a limb because I know people are going to think this is crazy. I don't believe Trump is totally human. I believe that his family bloodline has been intermingled with the DNA of Nephilim, fallen angels. Okay? Here's why I say that. I know this is going to sound super crazy, but I have interviewed people in my days on the radio. One guy in particular, I asked him, I said, how's it possible for fallen angels to have sexual relations with women? We read about this in Genesis chapter 6, right? It says, if you read it it says there were giants in the earth, and that word giants is Nephil. And that word Nephil means a bully or a tyrant. It means a fallen one. If you look up the root word, it means fallen ones. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of Elohim came in unto the daughters of men, and that word for men is Adam. And they bear children to them. The same became mighty men. That word mighty men, Gibor, means a giant. Okay. Which were of old. And that phrase of old is olam, which means eternity. In other words, these are supernatural beings. Okay. They were men of renown. In other words, these ancient myths like Gilgamesh, like Hercules, these famous stories, and we know there was giants because it even says that when Israel marched around Jericho, there was giants in the land, there was giants, and Yahuwah had no problem telling Israel to wipe out a whole nation of people and steal their land. Now, if you didn't know any better, you would think, wow, that's awfully mean for Yahuwah to send Israel to defeat this whole town of people, men, women, children, babies, infants, everybody. They're all to be slaughtered, and they're going to steal their land away from them. Now, why would Yahuwah tell them to do that unless these people at Jericho were not fully human? They were not fully human. They were giants.
Yeah.
They were giants. So should we care about, do you think the devil has a chance to repent and become born again or saved? No, he doesn't. Do you think fallen angels or demons have a chance to repent and become saved? No, they don't. And we're told in the book of Jude, in fact, Jude right here, that you find it, Jude chapter 1. Okay, there's only one chapter in Jude, but it says, and the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. So when I asked this guy who used to be into Satanism, I said, how is it possible for humans to have sexual relations with fallen angels? He says, well, it's simple. He said, these fallen angels have these supernatural qualities about them where they can disappear, they can shapeshift, they can walk through walls, they can move in and out of this different dimensions. Like they can manifest in the material world, they can move into another dimension, which is the spiritual world. He said, but if they drink human blood, they become physically like one of us. This is what he said. He said, so what these people do is they engage. You've got these aristocratic families in Europe who claim they're the descendants of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. They actually believe this, which is nonsense, but they actually have demons appear to them in these rituals, and they drink their blood. They drink supposedly demon blood. And so they call themselves reptilians, these people. They actually have DNA that's been altered. And it says this right in Daniel chapter 2, then in chapter 40, it says, and the fourth kingdom shall be strong. This is talking about the Fourth Reich, the Fourth Reich of the Roman Empire. Shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaks in pieces and subdues all things, and as iron that breaks all these, it shall break in pieces and bruise. And whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as you saw the iron mixed with miry clay, and toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas you saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Well, who's the they that are mingling themselves with the seed of men?
Right.
But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So, the iron represents graphene oxide, which is in the V. It's in the needles. And the clay represents human DNA because, Adam was formed out of the dust of the earth. So what they're trying to do is turn people into robots. They're trying to merge humans with machines, just like Elon Musk with Neuralink. So the iron oxide is what they use to make steel and metal parts. In fact, computer chips used to be made from silicon, but now I just read in an article a couple years ago, they're starting to use graphene oxide, which comes from iron ore. Okay, so what they're doing is they're trying to mix iron, meaning machines, with humans. Once they change and alter the DNA, and we no longer bear the name of Yahuwah on our DNA, we're no longer his image bearer. That gives the devil the right to possess those people because the copyright has changed. You see, those of us who have the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh on our DNA, we have his copyright stamped on our DNA. Once they take that out and they edit the genes, the devil has the legal right to say, I own this copyright now. I own this creation because I've altered the DNA. See that? We're going to be talking about this right here called Trump's Merovingian royal bloodline. I'm going to explain why I don't think he has entirely human DNA, that he's been mingled with the corrupted seed of the Nephilim, the fallen ones. So to pray for the devil to get saved and repent, that's an exercise in futility. Wouldn't you agree? I would rather pray for those that I know have a chance at being saved than to waste my energy on somebody that's already gone, that was never Yahuwah's to begin with. It's like when King David cried the blues over King Saul. Not King David, excuse me. The prophet Samuel, excuse me. The prophet Samuel was mourning about King Saul. And what did Yahuwah say to him? He said, stop it. Quit mourning for him. Move on. Go find you a David and anoint him. Right? So I think that people have this naive idea that we're going to pray for Trump and he's going to turn around. Look, we've had since 2016 to pray for Trump, and I used to pray for him. Okay. Has he changed? No.
And we can still pray for him. It's not that you can't cover your bases and say, Yahuwah, if he's still able to repent,
right?
We're not saying you can't do that, but we're not putting a ton of energy into that hope.
But here's the thing. This was on March 21st, 2020. I was pretty much clueless about what was going on and not really paying close attention on the news media or anything. And that morning, the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, says to me, Maria, go look up Revelation chapter 6. And then I want you to look up this word right here that begins with a C. And so I go and I look up this word that begins with a C. And as I'm reading Revelation 6:2, I notice that it says that there's this rider on a white horse and he's given a crown, which in Latin is corona. And he told me to look up this word here in Latin, and it means poison. And then I saw that he's given a bow. And when I looked up this word bow, toxin. Okay. So the Greek word toxon in Revelation 6:2 means a bow and an arrow. It comes from this Greek toxicon, meaning a poison in which arrows are dipped. Well, as I'm reading this, I understood in that moment, he says to me, that's Trump. He's the rider on the white horse. And for years, I would read this prophecy and I thought it was going to be about the Pope. I believed that it was going to be the last Pope who was going to be the rider on the white horse. And I still believe that the papacy is the one who, it was Pope Francis who commissioned Trump to do this depopulation climate change thing, right? Because the term climate change, if you understand what it's about, they believe that humans are destroying the planet And the only way to save the planet is to kill off a bunch of humans and save the planet. Because the global elites, many of them are really fallen angels in disguise. They can shapeshift and make themselves look like real humans, but they're really reptilians. I know this sounds crazy. It sounds like, a sci-fi, science fiction movie or something like that. But a lot of these people who are way up at the top, the global elites, they are really reptilians. They are fallen angels disguised as humans. And their goal is to get rid of human beings. They want to run the world. Okay. So the thing is, when he showed me that Trump's the rider on the white horse, I was like stunned. I was totally stunned. And this is the other thing that's funny is that back in December, Trump was selling these trading cards online. He made I think it was like I forget how much money he made on these trading cards, some ridiculous amount. Here is a picture of one of the trading cards he's selling. He's riding on a white horse. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's just, you can't make this stuff up. So once I was shown who he is, I believe his fate has been sealed.
Yeah.
I don't think praying for him is going to do any good. I already know who he is. And I'm not saying if you want to waste your breath and pray for him, go by all means. I have at least 6 or 7 friends who've had prophetic dreams about him. We're going to be doing a podcast about that at some point. But just to give you an idea, yeah, this is a dream that a friend of mine had. And she said that she was praying about who is Trump? Who is he? And this is what Yahuwah said to her. She said, last night I asked Abba to show me what he thought of Donald Trump. I heard read Ezekiel 28. I was shocked. I went to bed and dreamed this. In the dream, I saw Donald Trump speaking to people, but I knew he was speaking lies. I walked over to speak with him and told him I would pray for him. Now, this is a friend of mine who is also a prayer warrior. She's an intercessor. She says, I went to shake his hand, but he walked away from me. As he walked away, I yelled, just tell the truth about who you are. You are the king of Tyre. And he replied, yes, I am, with a sarcastic smirk. I replied, the prince of Tyre is another name for Lucifer. And he did the same thing again. He replied, yes, I am, with a smirk. Suddenly, I found myself walking through the sleeping chambers where Donald Trump and Melania lay asleep. I was going quietly to enter another room to sleep when I was caught, and I saw where they arose that bed linens had been stripped, and it was early in the hours of the morning. Their bedroom was laid in gold. Donald Trump never sleeps, is what I heard. I woke up and thought, I need to write this down, but I prayed inwardly and asked for a confirmation dream. I went back to bed and had a dream about a conspiracy podcaster named Eric Neptune. He wanted to have me on his program to warn about who Donald Trump really is. I entered the sleeping quarters of President Trump. To the eye, he looked normal, but I had a camera, and through the camera lens, I could see his true form. He had goat's horns, hands and feet, and he was fire red. Suddenly, the picture of him in his true form was in my hands, and he wanted the picture back. But this podcaster named Eric Neptune wanted the picture as proof. After I woke up, I researched Eric Neptune. Eric means ruler of all. Neptune is the Roman name for the Greek Poseidon, the king of the sea. Tyre was mentioned in Ezekiel 28. Neptune is the 8th planet from the sun. Revelation 17:11 speaks about the 8th king as being the final ruler of the world. Neptune rules with a trident or a scepter. A scepter is a staff that a king uses to rule with. Okay, so this is what she saw in her dream. This is what Trump looked like in her dream. He looked like Neptune. He was the prince of Tyre from Ezekiel 28. So I'm not the only person getting these revelations. I'm not the only one. I have like 6 or 7 friends who've been given these kinds of dreams.
Yeah. So it's like it's again reflecting the common knowledge. Simply put, that when someone has the mark, it's irreversible.
Yep,
Mark of the beast, right? And that
exactly.
was really great work to found all that that you've been presenting. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's more questions. Anybody else?
Yeah. So you have to give short answers. It's going to be hard for you, I know, because you have lots of good insight.
Right. Sorry.
So these are chat questions, and we're not going to say who is making what comments.
Anonymity. Yeah.
This is just a comment.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, you made mention that Charles is going to be coronated at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
That's right.
They said that the olives for his coronation were from the Mount of Olives.
Yeah.
And that the oil was then made and then is taken to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre to have the oil blessed or whatever the process is.
Yeah.
But then the oil is taken to England where he's coronated.
Okay. I must have misread. I thought he was being coronated at the Church of Holy Sepulchre, but I guess I misunderstood that. Okay.
It's a small piece, but it is technically.
No, thanks for the correction. That makes, yeah. Okay.
And then this person said, Trump said, and they sent me the link to the Hill article. Trump said Prince Philip, his death was irreplaceable loss. That's a posture. William was one in the Illuminati, and the necromancy transference hasn't happened yet. They believe Trump will take that ceremony, and then he will not be human anymore. Sort of a necromancy sort of transference thing.
Right.
Crazy stuff. Someone else just said they've heard that Trump is the Assyrian, but maybe you can briefly.
Sure. Where's my blog about the Assyrian? Hang on. I've got so many blogs that I've written about Trump. It's not even funny.
And I've got more questions. So.
Okay. The Assyrian. Who is the Assyrian? Okay. So who's the Assyrian? Isaiah's prophecy. I've got quite a few articles that say that Trump does have Assyrian lineage. But also, as I've said, when Isaiah talks about the Assyrian, I believe he's alluding to Nimrod's kingdom, because in Genesis chapter 10, it says that Nimrod went forth out of Ashur. Ashur, that's the ancient name for Assyria. And if you look up this meaning of this word Ashur, it means to stand straight and erect. It means to be successful. When Isaiah talks about the Assyrian, I believe he's alluding to Nimrod. Nimrod was the first Assyrian. And so Nimrod was the archetype. He was the first historical anti-Messiah. In fact, his name in Chaldean is Stur, S-T-U-R, which adds up to 666 in Chaldean. Nimrod's name used to be Saturn, Saturnia. We talked about that in my Valentine's Day video. The ancient city of Rome used to be called Saturnia, named after Saturn, named after Nimrod. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Yeah. So another question, and this is unrelated to the topic, but they said when the graves broke open at Yeshua's death, they said Yahushua. Could this have been the first fruit resurrection of the dead, or what became part of the 24 elders, or part of the first fruits offering after Messiah's death?
Yeah, those are interesting questions. I mean, as far as the 24 elders, I tend to think, I could be wrong, but I tend to think that the 24 elders already existed in eternity, because it talks about that in Daniel's prophecy, where it talks about the Ancient of Days. It says right here in Ephesians chapter in 4, 8, and 9, it says that wherefore he says, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. Now that he ascended, what is it but that he also descended first into the lower parts of the earth? He that descended is the same also that ascended far above all heavens, that he might fill all things. Now, where did he descend to? Well, he told us in Luke chapter 16 about a place called Abraham's bosom. Now, this isn't a parable, because whenever he tells parables, he doesn't name people. He just says there was a certain man, there was a certain woman.
Or I tell you a story.
Right. But in this, he actually names Lazarus. He names Abraham. He names Moses. So he names people. He wouldn't be making up a fictitious story about all these characters, because then we'd have to accuse our Messiah of being a talebearer, right? So you have to understand, Sheol was divided up into two sections. The part of Sheol was called Abraham's bosom, and the other part of Sheol was where the place of torment was, where all those who were unrighteous went, and they were tormented in flames. Okay, and so the rich man asks for Abraham to send Lazarus over to dip his finger in some water to cool his tongue with, but there's a great gulf fixed between them. So everybody who died prior to the resurrection that was righteous, they were obedient to Torah, they were obedient to Yahuwah, they were obedient to the covenant. They went to this place called Abraham's bosom. This is why he told the thief on the cross next to him, "You will be with me today in paradise." Paradise was this temporary holding place. However, once he resurrected, he went and preached the gospel. It says in scripture that he preached unto the spirits in Hades, and so I used to think that meant he preached to like the fallen angels. But what would be the point of preaching to fallen angels? They can never repent, right? So who would he be preaching to? It says right here in 1 Peter 3:19 that he went and preached unto the spirits in prison. So you have Abraham's bosom, which was a temporary holding place. He went down there, I believe, to preach the good news, and he brought before the Father in heaven his first fruits wave sheaf offering. Like the priest in the temple was supposed to wave the first cut barley in the temple, Yahushua was the high priest acting as Melchizedek, the high priest, waving those souls before the Father in heaven as his first fruits offering. So moving forward after the resurrection, every person moving forward who dies in Messiah, they go straight to heaven. Their spirit goes to heaven, but their body remains sleeping in the grave. But their spirit goes to heaven. And we know this because Shaul, Paul says, to be absent from the body is to be present with Yahuwah. Also, we know about the souls that are under the altar in Revelation chapter 6. The souls are crying out for their blood to be avenged. And, some people like to use this passage where it says, "And no man has ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man, which is in heaven." You have to understand the context of this is that Yahushua is having a discussion with Nicodemus. At this point in time, he had not ascended to the Father yet. He had not been crucified, and he had not been resurrected yet. So at this point in time, no man had ascended to heaven yet. However, post-crucifixion, when those die in Messiah, the spirit goes back to Elohim. It says this in Ecclesiastes, that Ecclesiastes chapter 12, that the spirit goes back to Elohim who gave it, but the body is not, remains decaying in the grave. However, in Ezekiel 37, we are told that all those dead bones are going to be taken out of their graves, and they're going to receive new skin and new flesh on them, and they are going to have life breathed into them, and so they're going to come back to life. Hope that answers your question.
They said yes, it does answer the question. And they also sort of dovetailed and said, could they be the 12 apostles from the Old Testament and 12 New Testament apostles, 12 gates in the city?
Yeah, the 24 elders. Yeah, I've thought about those things as well, but still remains to be seen.
There you have it. Maria doesn't know everything, but she is pretty sharp. All right, so let's see. Did I have one last question or not? Maybe that was it. Oh, and Michael mentioned Tartarus, when you were talking about the two areas divided under the crust of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Maria, on the time when you were talking about Jupiter and Venus, I'm pretty sure you got both of those mixed up backwards.
What did I
Isn't
say?
Jupiter considered the king and Venus considered the virgin?
Jupiter is called in ancient Hebrew, it's called the righteous, and Venus is called the king. I used to think the other way around, like you're saying, because Jupiter's a bigger planet. But I discovered the reason why Venus is called the king is because it's the bright and morning star. It's the largest star. It's the king star. It's called the bright and morning star. Jupiter is named the righteous, Hazadik, which means the righteous, and Venus is called Hamalek. It was the conjunction of those two planets formed the king of righteousness, Melchizedek,
Yep,
So yeah, I looked into that, and you would think that Jupiter would be the king because it's the biggest planet in the solar system, but that's not the case. It's called Hazadik, and Venus is called the king.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Sure.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, and this will be the last comment. Jupiter orbits and collects asteroids by its gravitational pull, and that protects the Earth, I guess, from more asteroid strikes. As this begins to degrade, the asteroids will shower the Earth on the great and terrible day of Yahuwah.
That's
very possible. That could be right.
Sure.
Could be right. Yahuwah bless you and keep you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. We hope you've enjoyed today's broadcast and that you are encouraged in your walk with Messiah. For more teachings, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell to be notified of our latest content. Visit Maria's many blogs at doubleportioninheritance.com. That's doubleportioninheritance.com. This ministry is made possible by the prayers and support of listeners like you. To make a donation by PayPal or Venmo.com, use the email address doubleportioninheritance@gmail.com. That's doubleportioninheritance@gmail.com. On behalf of Maria and Gary at Double Portion Inheritance Ministries, may Yahuwah bless you.